Hello my dear sewing friends, it's Alisa here and welcome back to the upcycling series on my channel. Now we have done so many different upcycles from like skirts to shirts to pants and dresses, but today's episode I think is going to be among my favorites because we are going to be upcycling blankets. I'm going to get started with this first project and you're probably going to think that I'm crazy, but that's okay. That's part of the deal. And I don't even remember for how long I had this IKEA blanket for, and I'm not even sure if they make these anymore, but I did buy it for a particular reason of upcycling. It was definitely 3, maybe even 4 years ago, and I loved the color combinations. I loved that it had the little contrasting trim over here like most sweaters in the stores do. So I thought, wow, I haven't even come across a fabric like this at a fabric shop. Wouldn't that be fun to take a blanket and turn it into something wearable? I am using this video as a little bit of a push, and hopefully it encourages you as well. If you have those projects that have been dormant for a while, maybe it's the time to sort them out. Sometimes we just have to let it go if you have fallen out of love with the project, and sometimes we just have to muster some energy, some perseverance, and just get it done. I've been waiting for this moment for so long. It's finally here. It did turn out though that this pretty yellow trim, this yellow ribbing, was only on 2 sides of the rectangle, which is kind of a little bit of a bummer, but nevertheless, I really like it. The overall plan, I think, is to make a sweater, possibly with a hood and possibly with a zipper. But the main idea that I really want to do here is to utilize all of these beautiful features that this blanket has. For my first step though, I do have to figure out what would be the best way, the best sequence of working with this blanket and transforming it into a sweater, because this knit is quite a chunky knit. So if I just cut it, it will start unraveling. And as I mentioned, I only have 2 of these, so I need to sort of problem solve what would be the most effective way of using what I have. Now, the 2 features that I really want to use to my advantage are the finished edges of the blanket and that beautiful yellow ribbing. As you can tell, I absolutely love it. For the pattern base for this project, I think I have settled on using my knit bodice block sweater tutorial. And for the hood, I'm gonna go for my 2-piece hood tutorial. But before I cut anything out, I need to start interfacing the seam allowances in order to avoid massive unraveling. Now, the interfacing that I'm using is a knit interfacing, comes in a roll, and then all I do is I cut it down to the width of the seam allowances that I'm going to be using. But in my case, absolutely necessary. So once that is done, I am ready to cut. The hood here. Now, I really want to avoid any sort of seam on top of the hood in order to not to interrupt that finished edge of the blanket. So here, the top of the hood is going to be cut as one, slowly transforming into sort of like a dart. You will see how it all looks in the end, but I think this is going to be really good. All of the next steps in my mind seemed rather simple and straightforward, but I think I forgot for a second what I'm working with. Therefore, I did have to slow down quite a bit, partially due to the fabric itself and also due to the print. As you see, I'm working with stripes, so I decided to take a little bit extra and definitely baste it together before sewing it. Now, because the center front opening of my hoodie was made using the finished edge of the blanket, first I gotta do the sleeves and attach the hood, and after that I can insert the zipper. by the way, if you do need detailed step-by-step instructions, let's say on how to insert a zipper, or how to draft and sew in the hood, or how to do the sleeves or the cuffs or any of that, I have all of them available on my channel. And as of, hello Eva, as of this project, I'm on my last step, and I think I want to cover all of the seams on the inside, and my choice of material this time is going to be twill tape. So most of these I did manage to do on a sewing machine, but some of these did have to be hand sewn. But I think I'm pretty much done. So now let's take a look at the final result. So, what do you guys think? For me, definitely a winner. This is something that I would wear on the weekend or for a casual day. I like the color, the style, the fit, the comfort. Everything fits the mark, so I'm pretty sure I'm gonna get a ton of wear out of this. Plus, did you see how much fabric I have left over? I'm gonna be really careful over here because I don't want it to unravel, but this is a really nice, decent amount, and I think it will be enough to make something really fun for my daughter. So I'm gonna put that on my to-do list. But this is one of the really great upsides of upcycling blankets, is because you do get a nice size of fabric to work with versus, let's say, if you're upcycling a shirt or a midi skirt. Now, if you do have a blanket like this that you would like to upcycle, before we move on to the next one, I wanted to give you 2 extra ideas that would be perfect for this. The first one is cocoon cardigan, which is really easy, really straightforward, barely any sewing, and perhaps you won't even need to do any of the cutting if your blanket is of the size that you will need. The second one is a very recent make out of this pink Sherpa. Now, this was made out of fabric that I bought at a fabric store, but if you do have a really fun and fluffy blanket, then this could be a really great idea and a really great project. Plus, you can make a matching scarf to go with it. So if you're interested in these ideas, I will leave the links to the tutorials for you guys in the description of this video. Next on my upcycling list, we have this burgundy color blanket. It's definitely not a full-size blanket because it was meant for my daughter, but it is a nice chunk of fabric, so we will have plenty to work with. I'm not sure if you will be able to see this on camera, but it is quite thick, and then also this fabric has sort of like a velvety feel to it. Definitely has a little bit of a nap. It has a little bit of stretch in one of the directions, and the beauty of it is that it doesn't unravel after you cut it. And the funny story was that I initially bought this as a backing for my daughter's blanket. So I went to Joann's. My daughter at the time was really into dinosaurs, and she was just about to start daycare, so she needed a blanket for a nap. So we found this really fun, pretty dinosaur print, kind of like the only dinosaur print that they had at Joann's, and the colors were pink, purple, this sort of like burgundy, some other colors, and this particular fabric was the only one that was thick enough for a backing for a blanket, but also fluffy and of the right color. So we bought it, and after that, I honestly have no idea what happened. I don't even remember the reasoning behind it, but I decided to make both of the fabrics in 2 separate blankets. So now that they are of the age where they're phasing out the naps, we no longer need this blanket, and that's why we are upcycling it. Now, the idea is to take this blanket and then turn it into sort of like a house cardigan. Now, some of you might know, some of you might not, but I do have 2 sets of clothing. One set of clothing that I wear at home that are super comfortable, something that I'm not afraid to get dirty if we're doing crafts, cooking, tidying up, cleaning, anything else, and a set of clothing that I wear outside. It's just how I was raised, and it kind of stuck with me, and that's how I go about life. And I also work here in the basement, and when the lights are on when I'm filming, it does get quite hot and stuffy, and you see me in a short sleeve shirt, and when the lights are off and I'm doing other work, then it does get quite cold. So this would be something that I can put on and just carry on with my daily tasks. Now here, just like in the first make, I wanted to use the advantage of the fabric, which is that it doesn't fray once you cut it. So I thought that the shawl collar would be absolutely perfect for that. Besides, I haven't made it in a while, so this is definitely a win-win. Plus, if you are a member of this channel, first of all, thank you so much for being here, and thank you for your support. And check out your members perks. There is a full members extra on drafting a collar like this. So I have already drafted mine. I have made a little mock-up just to make sure that I get the shape of the collar right. And now I need to take it apart, and we are ready to cut our fabric. Now here, while laying out the pattern on the fabric, I had an idea that came to me of why not cut this all as one pattern piece, avoiding the side seams, because my plan is to leave the raw edges raw, so that way the bottom hem would be extra clean without any side seams present. Now, I'm not sure about you, but anytime I cut anything thick or anything like double brushed polyester, my scissors dull extremely fast. So I'm gonna go ahead, sharpen these up maybe a couple of times, because I want the cut edges to be really nice and clean. Now, to put this all together, I find that one of the easiest ways is to start with the center back seam of the shawl collar itself. And here I've decided to use a lightning stitch. Not only it remains stretchy, but it is also narrow enough that it actually allows for the seam to open flat. After that, I put together the shoulder seams and attached the back of the collar to the back neckline. And here, although my fabric doesn't fray, I decided to do like a modified version of a flat welt seam, so that way it's just really nice and flat and doesn't rub against the neck. After that, I just had to put together the sleeves, add the cuffs, set the sleeves into the armholes, and we're pretty much done. As a last step, I did cut out like a little belt from whatever was left fabric-wise, so we'll see if I make use of it or not, but right now, let's take a look at the final result. This is not what I would usually wear when I'm at home, because these are not my home clothes, but I wanted to give you a contrasting background so that way you could clearly see this make, because as I'm sure you have noticed, this color doesn't like to behave on camera at all. Now, speaking of color, this definitely isn't my color, meaning that if I was to make something from scratch and I would go to a fabric shop, I definitely wouldn't choose this color. But for wearing at home and doing all sorts of things and tasks, this definitely will do the job. Now, I do like the final result. However, I think there are two things that I'm going to add with time. Number one, because I didn't add any facing to the lapels and there's no interfacing or interlining either, they kind of flip-flop around, and I should have thought about it, but I didn't. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm just going to fold them under, and then I'm going to hand stitch them down so that way they hold shape at all times. And number two, if I do end up using this belt more often, I think I'm going to add two little belt loops in the side seams. Also, I do realize that this particular make does seem quite underwhelming, you know, because it is. And that's okay. Not everything has to be super duper fabulous. So sometimes we create simple things for everyday use, but also it was nice to try something new and sort of bounce off ideas, like for example, avoiding the side seam or leaving the edges completely raw. Now it just so happens that I made 2 garments out of these 2 blankets, but you don't have to limit yourself to that because these 2 examples are just a little drop in the bucket out of all of the other things that you can use up the blankets that you no longer need. Now here's another idea that I wanted to share with you, which could be a really great upcycle for your blankets. If you're one of the people that likes to wear your blanket around the house as you're getting a cup of tea, reading a book, just roaming around your home on your day off, so that way if you make a little hood, it doesn't slip off, always stays around you, and it's nice and cozy. Now I just made a hooded towel for my daughter, and the steps are exactly the same. The only difference is in the fabric that you're going to use. So that's what I'm thinking to do with this blanket, and here is a full video with step-by-step instructions and measurements that you will need. So definitely click right over here, and I truly hope that you enjoyed these blanket upcycles and got a couple of new ideas. And until next time, happy thoughtful sewing. I'll see you very soon in another video. Bye!